You know that moment, when everything just goes silent? When the entire restaurant, every conversation, every clink of silverware, every laugh, just stops? That's what happened when my stepfamily got dragged out of the VIP section. By security. In front of everyone. I was sitting 3 tables away, sipping my wine, watching it all unfold. And I couldn't help but smile. See, they thought they had won. My stepmother, Linda, she thought she was so clever. Banning me from their precious little VIP table at Romano's. The same restaurant where my late father used to take me every Sunday for pancakes when I was 7 years old. But here's the thing about karma, it doesn't just knock on your door. Sometimes, it owns the whole damn building. Let me back up. My name is Sarah, and this is about the day I watched my stepfamily's world collapse. Right there, between the lobster thermidor and the creme brulee. It started 3 months ago. When Linda decided I wasn't family enough to sit at their table during my cousin's engagement dinner. She literally, and I mean literally, had the hostess move me to a table by the kitchen. Said I didn't fit the image they wanted to project. The image. Can you believe that? I sat there that night, listening to the clatter of dishes behind me, watching my stepfamily toast and laugh, and I made myself a promise. A very specific promise. They wanted to play games about who belonged where? Fine. Let's play. But first, let me tell you who Linda really is. Because the woman who banned me from that table, she has secrets. Dark ones. The kind that make people very, very quiet when they're exposed. And Romano's? The restaurant where she humiliated me? Well, turns out I know the owner. Actually, let me be more specific about that. I don't just know him. I own him. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood, because you need to understand exactly who Linda is. My father, God rest his soul, was a successful contractor. Not rich, but comfortable. He built houses, honest work, with his own 2 hands. And when I was 8 years old, my mother died in a car accident. Dad was broken. Completely, utterly broken. Enter Linda, stage left. She was a waitress at the diner where Dad would go to drink coffee and stare at nothing for hours. Pretty, in that, artificial way. Big blonde hair, always perfectly done. Nails that cost more than our grocery bill. And she saw my grieving father, like a shark smells blood in the water. Within 6 months, she had moved into our house. Within a year, they were married. And that's when my real education began. Linda had 2 kids from her previous marriage. Jessica, who was my age, and Derek, 2 years older. And from day one, from the very first day, Linda made it clear that there was a hierarchy in our house. Her kids were the priority. Her kids got new clothes. Her kids got the bigger bedrooms. Her kids got to eat first at dinner. And me? I got the scraps. But it wasn't just about things, you know? It was psychological warfare. She was an artist at making me feel small. I remember one Christmas morning. I was maybe 10 years old. I woke up so excited, ran downstairs to see what Santa had brought. And under the tree, there were piles of presents. Mountains of them. For Jessica and Derek. For me? One small box. One. And inside, a pair of socks. White tube socks from the dollar store. Jessica got a new bike. Derek got a gaming console. And Linda just smiled at me and said, Santa knows who the good children are, doesn't he, Sarah? My father? He was working 16-hour days by then. Linda had convinced him they needed a bigger house, nicer cars, better everything. So he was never home to see what was happening. And when he was home, Linda was different. Sweet. Caring. She'd fuss over me in front of him, ask about my day, ruffle my hair. The perfect stepmother act. The moment he left for work, the mask came off. Clean the kitchen, Sarah. Do the laundry, Sarah. Watch your brother and sister while I go shopping, Sarah. I became their unpaid housekeeper. At 11 years old. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, was watching my father change. Linda slowly, systematically, turned him against his own memories of my mother. She redecorated the entire house, got rid of my mother's pictures, her jewelry, everything. And when I protested, when I begged him to keep just one photo of Mom, Linda would get this hurt look in her eyes and say, "I'm just trying to help us all move forward, honey. Don't you want Daddy to be happy?" So the photos went away. By the time I turned 16, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Linda's kids were getting ready for college, expensive colleges. Meanwhile, she was telling my father that maybe I should consider community college. Or just, get a job. Sarah's always been more of a practical girl, she'd say. Not everyone's meant for university. This woman who had never worked a day in her life after marrying my father, was deciding my future. Let me know in the comments where you are watching this video from. I'd love to know. But here's what Linda didn't know. What none of them knew. I had been watching. Learning. Taking notes. And I had discovered something very interesting about my dear stepmother's past. Something she definitely didn't want my father to find out. The engagement dinner was supposed to be a celebration. My cousin Michael, Dad's brother's son, was marrying his college sweetheart. The whole extended family was coming to Romano's, the fancy Italian place downtown. Romano's had been special to our family for years. Dad used to take me there every Sunday after Mom died, just the two of us. We'd sit in the corner booth, and he'd let me order whatever I wanted. Chocolate chip pancakes, even for dinner. He'd tell me stories about Mom, how they met, how much she loved me. But now Linda treated Romano's like her personal kingdom. I arrived that Saturday evening, wearing my best dress. Nothing fancy, but clean and appropriate. I was actually excited. I hadn't seen my extended family in months, and I was looking forward to catching up with everyone. The hostess, Maria, greeted me with a smile. "Sarah, your family's already here. Right this way." She led me toward the back corner, toward the VIP section where they had pushed 3 tables together. I could see everyone already seated. Linda, of course, at the head of the table like some sort of queen. Jessica and Derek flanking her. My father, looking tired as always. But as I approached the table, Linda looked up. And her face went cold. She stood up quickly, smoothly, and intercepted me before I could sit down. "Oh, Sarah," she said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I'm so sorry, honey, but we had to make some adjustments to the seating." I stopped walking. "Adjustments?" "Well, you see." She gestured vaguely at the table. "We have Michael's future in-laws here tonight. Very important people. His fiancée's father owns 3 car dealerships, and her mother is on the hospital board." She paused, letting that sink in. "And we just thought, well, we thought it might be better if you sat somewhere more comfortable." I looked past her at the table. At my father, who was studiously avoiding eye contact. At my cousins, who were suddenly very interested in their bread rolls. "More comfortable?" I repeated. Linda's smile was sharp as a knife. "Maria has prepared a lovely table for you. Right over there." She pointed, and my heart sank. The table by the kitchen. Literally, right next to the swinging doors where the servers rushed in and out. Where you could hear every clatter of dishes, every shout from the chef. "Linda," I said slowly, "this is a family dinner. For our family." "Of course it is, sweetie. But you have to understand, appearances matter." Michael's fiancé's family, they're used to a certain standard. The word standard hit me like a slap. I looked down at my dress. Clean, pressed, modest. I looked at my hands, no manicure, but clean. I thought about my job. I was working full-time at a marketing firm, putting myself through night school. And then I looked at Linda. Designer dress. Diamond earrings that my father had bought her for Christmas. Nails that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. What exactly are you saying, Linda? Her voice dropped lower, but not low enough that the nearby tables couldn't hear. I'm saying that tonight we need to present as a cohesive family unit. And you? She looked me up and down. You just don't quite fit. The silence at our family table was deafening. My father was still staring at his hands. Jessica was smirking, actually smirking. Derek had his phone out, probably texting his friends about the drama. Maria, the hostess, looked mortified. She was holding a menu, waiting for direction. Sarah, Linda said, her voice now dripping with false sweetness, you understand, don't you? You're always so reasonable. That word. Reasonable. Like being reasonable meant accepting humiliation. Like being reasonable meant sitting by the kitchen while my stepfamily played Happy Family 20 feet away. I stood there for what felt like an hour, but was probably only 30 seconds. I could feel the entire restaurant watching. Waiting to see what I would do. And you know what I did? I smiled. Of course, Linda. You're absolutely right. Her expression flickered, just for a second. She hadn't expected me to give in so easily. I should sit where I fit. I turned to Maria. The table by the kitchen will be perfect. And I walked away. Calmly, quietly, with as much dignity as I could manage. But as I sat down at my lonely little table, listening to the kitchen chaos behind me, watching my stepfamily toast and laugh without me, I made a decision. Linda wanted to play games about who belonged where. About standards and appearances and fitting in? Fine. Let's play. But first, I needed to make a phone call. Before I tell you what I did next, if you're enjoying the story, please subscribe. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Because what happened next, what I discovered about Linda, and what I did with that information. Well, let's just say appearances can be very, very deceiving. The phone call I made that night was to my friend Marcus. Marcus Romano. As in Romano's restaurant. His grandfather's place. See, Marcus and I had dated briefly in college. Nothing serious, but we stayed friends. Good friends. And when I told him what had happened, when I described how Linda had humiliated me in his family's restaurant, he got very, very quiet. Sarah, he said slowly, nobody, and I mean nobody, treats my friends like that in my place. But Marcus didn't just get angry. He got curious. Tell me about this stepmother of yours. Linda what? Linda Patterson. Well, Linda Mitchell now, since she married my dad. There was a long pause. Linda Patterson, blonde, about 5'6", drives a white BMW? My stomach dropped. You know her? Oh, I know her all right. Sarah, we need to meet. Tomorrow. The next morning, Marcus and I sat in his office above the restaurant. And what he told me, what he showed me, changed everything. Turns out, Linda had quite the history with Romanos. Back before she married my father, she used to come in regularly. Always with different men. Always expensive dates. But that wasn't the interesting part. The interesting part was the credit card fraud. Marcus pulled out a thick folder. We've been building a case against her for 2 years. She would take her dates' credit cards, just for a few minutes. While they were in the bathroom, or distracted. And she'd run them through this little device. He showed me photos. Security camera footage. Linda, clear as day, skimming credit cards. We finally caught her red-handed 6 months ago. But her lawyer worked out a deal. She'd pay restitution, quietly, and we wouldn't press charges. As long as she never set foot in Romano's again. My hands were shaking. She's banned? Permanently. If she ever comes back, we call the police immediately. And that's when the plan formed. Beautiful, perfect, poetic justice. I waited 3 months. 3 long months of playing the dutiful stepdaughter. Smiling when Linda made her little comments. Saying nothing when she excluded me from family events. But I was watching. Waiting. And planning. The opportunity came when Derek announced his graduation party. Big celebration, he'd just finished his master's degree. And where did Linda want to hold it? Romano's, of course. She called and made a reservation for 12 people. VIP section. Premium menu. I called Marcus immediately. She just made a reservation, I told him. Perfect, he said. Let her come. Let them all come. But Sarah, are you sure about this? I thought about the Christmas with one pair of socks. About sitting by the kitchen during the engagement dinner. About years of being treated like I didn't belong in my own family. I'm sure. The night of Derek's party, I arrived early. I sat at the bar, 2 tables away from the VIP section. Close enough to see everything. Far enough away to look innocent. Linda arrived like a queen holding court. She was wearing a new dress, probably cost more than my rent. She swept into the VIP section with Derek and Jessica, waving at the other patrons like she owned the place. My father looked uncomfortable. He kept glancing around, like he sensed something was wrong. For 30 minutes, they ordered drinks. Appetizers. Linda was loud, dramatic, telling everyone about Derek's achievements. How proud she was. How successful her family was. And then Marcus appeared. He walked over to their table, slowly, deliberately. He was wearing his best suit. Professional. Serious. I watched Linda's face as he approached. At first, she smiled, probably thought he was coming to compliment her or offer them something special. Then recognition hit. The color drained completely from her face. Like someone had pulled a plug. Marcus spoke quietly, but I could read his lips. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to leave. Linda's voice cracked. Excuse me? You're banned from this establishment. You need to leave. Now. The VIP section went dead silent. Derek looked confused. Jessica's mouth fell open. My father looked like he'd been hit by a truck. I think there's been a mistake. Linda stammered. Marcus reached into his jacket. Pulled out the folder. No mistake, Mrs. Patterson. We have documentation of credit card fraud. Multiple incidents. You signed an agreement never to return to this establishment. He opened the folder right there on the table. Photos spilled out. Security footage stills. Clear images of Linda with that little card skimmer. Derek grabbed one of the photos. Mom, what is this? I can explain. But Linda's voice was barely a whisper. My father picked up another photo. His hands were shaking. Linda, what did you do? That's when security arrived. 2 large men in black suits. They didn't touch her, didn't need to. Their presence was enough. Marcus looked at the rest of the table. The rest of you are welcome to stay and finish your meal. But she. He pointed at Linda. She needs to leave immediately. Or we call the police. Linda stood up, unsteady on her feet. She looked around the table, looking for support. For someone to defend her. Nobody moved. Derek was staring at the photos. Jessica was crying, probably embarrassed about the scene they were causing. My father looked like he was seeing Linda for the first time. This is a mistake, Linda said one more time. A misunderstanding. Marcus handed her a business card. Call my lawyer if you want to discuss it. But right now, you need to go. And she did. She walked out, alone, while her entire family sat in stunned silence at the VIP table. But I wasn't done. Not even close. What happened after Linda left the restaurant, that was just the beginning. You see, my father, he's not a stupid man. Naive sometimes, blinded by love, maybe. But not stupid. And seeing those photos, seeing the evidence laid out like that, it broke something open in him. The drive home from Romano's was silent. Completely silent. Linda tried calling, probably 50 times. But Dad had turned his phone off. When we got home, and yes, I went home with him that night. Dad sat at the kitchen table with his head in his hands. 20 years, he whispered. 20 years I've been married to her, and I don't even know who she is. I sat across from him, the same kitchen table where I used to do my homework while Linda's kids got help from tutors. Dad, I said carefully, there's more you need to know. And I told him everything. The credit card skimming was just the tip of the iceberg. See, after Marcus had shown me Linda's file, I'd done some digging of my own. And what I found, it was worse than I'd imagined. Linda had been stealing from Dad for years. Small amounts at first. $20 here, $50 there. Money she claimed was for groceries or gas or school supplies for the kids. But it had escalated. I showed Dad the bank statements I'd copied. The credit card bills I'd found in her purse. Charges for expensive dinners, with men who weren't my father. Hotel rooms. Shopping sprees. While Dad was working 16-hour days. Linda was living a double life. She's been having an affair, I told him. Multiple affairs. And she's been using your money to pay for them. Dad's face went gray. How long have you known? 6 months. I hired a private investigator after the engagement dinner. I wanted to know. I wanted proof of who she really was. I pulled out the photographs. Linda at expensive restaurants with different men. Linda checking into hotels. Linda shopping with money that should have gone toward my college fund, or Dad's retirement. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. But he wasn't angry at me. He was angry at himself. I failed you, he said. I let her push you out of your own family. The next morning, Linda came home. She'd spent the night at Jessica's apartment, probably trying to come up with a story. An explanation. But Dad was ready for her. He'd called a lawyer. He'd frozen their joint accounts. And he'd changed the locks. Linda stood on the front porch, banging on the door, screaming through the glass. Frank, you have to let me explain. Those photos, they're fake. Someone's trying to frame me. Dad didn't even look at her. He just slid a manila envelope under the door. Divorce papers. Linda's voice got higher, more desperate. Frank, please. What about Jessica and Derek? What about our family? That's when Dad opened the door. Just a crack. Our family, he said quietly. Linda, you stole $40,000 from me. You had affairs. You committed fraud. And worst of all, you made my daughter feel like she didn't belong in her own home. Frank, I can change. I can fix this. No, Dad said. You can't. Because you're not sorry you did it. You're only sorry you got caught. And he closed the door. The legal battle lasted 6 months. Linda tried everything, claimed the photos were doctored, said I had manipulated Dad against her, even accused me of forging bank statements. But the evidence was overwhelming. The private investigator had done his job well. Credit card records, hotel receipts, phone records, everything painted a clear picture of Linda's double life. In the end, she got nothing. Nothing except a criminal record and a reputation that followed her everywhere. Jessica and Derek, they tried to stay neutral at first. But when the truth came out, when they realized their comfortable lifestyle had been built on stolen money and lies, they distanced themselves from their mother pretty quickly. Derek moved across the country for a job. Jessica got married and changed her last name immediately. And Linda? She moved into a studio apartment on the other side of town. Got a job, finally, waiting tables at a diner. The same kind of diner where she'd met my father 20 years ago. But here's the thing about karma, it's not just about revenge. It's about restoration. Dad and I, we rebuilt our relationship. Slowly, carefully, but genuinely. He sold the house, too many bad memories. We bought a smaller place together. Simple, comfortable, honest. And Romanos? Marcus and I started dating again. Properly this time. Last month, he proposed, right there in the corner booth where Dad used to take me for pancakes. The same booth where Linda used to scan credit cards. 6 months later, I got a text message. From Linda. It said, "I'm sorry. I know you'll never forgive me, but I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better." I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it. Part of me wanted to write back something cruel. But you know what I did? Nothing. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so good, so honest, so full of genuine love and respect, that the people who tried to tear you down become irrelevant. Linda taught me something valuable, even though she didn't mean to. She taught me that family isn't about blood or marriage certificates or who sits at which table. Family is about the people who see your worth, who celebrate your successes, who stand by you when the world tries to make you small. And those people? They would never, ever ban you from their table. You know what's funny about justice? It's not always loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes it's just truth finally finding its way to the surface. I learned something important from all of this. Something I wish I'd understood when I was that little girl, sitting by the kitchen at Romano's, feeling like I didn't belong anywhere. Your worth, your value as a person, it's not determined by who includes you. It's not about who invites you to their table, or their parties, or their version of what family should look like. Your worth comes from knowing who you are. And refusing to let anyone, make you smaller than that. Linda spent 20 years trying to erase me from my own family. But she couldn't erase the truth. She couldn't erase my father's love for me, buried as it was under years of manipulation. And she definitely couldn't erase my determination to build something better. Today, Dad walks me down the aisle at my own wedding. At Romano's, of course. Marcus and I are transforming the VIP section into something new, a family area where everyone belongs. Where the only requirement for sitting at the table is showing up with love and respect for the people around you. Simple concept, right? Linda didn't come to the wedding. I didn't invite her, and honestly, I didn't expect her to try. But I heard from Jessica that she saw the announcement in the newspaper. And apparently, she cried. Not tears of joy. Tears of recognition, maybe. Of all the moments she could have been part of, if she'd just chosen love over control. If she'd chosen inclusion over exclusion. But that's her burden to carry now. Not mine. I used to think revenge meant making someone pay for what they did to you. But real revenge, real justice, is living so well that their opinion of you becomes completely irrelevant. It's building relationships based on mutual respect instead of fear. It's choosing people who lift you up instead of people who need to tear you down to feel powerful. And it's knowing, truly knowing, that you belong wherever you choose to show up authentically. Linda banned me from a table. But in trying to exclude me, she lost everything that actually mattered. Her marriage, her family, her reputation, her comfortable life built on lies. Meanwhile, I gained something I'd been missing my whole childhood. I gained my place. My real place. In a family that chooses me every single day. That's not revenge. That's restoration. And honestly, it feels so much better than anger ever did. If you liked this story, check out this other one on the screen. See you there.